I absolutely love physical pen testing. And I didn't get into it the traditional way, right? When I got into, so the way that I got into physical pen testing, this dates back to like when I was stationed in Korea. So I was in Korea in 2000 and 2004 to 2005 was when I was in Korea. This was still relatively early in the days of cyber. As a matter of fact, we didn't really have a career field called cyber at the time. I, Gonzo, you might this might inadvertently answer your question, even though you're asking it mid story. But this was like early days of cyber, and when I was in Korea. Obviously, one of the biggest tabletop exercises that we run in Korea is what happens when the North attacks the South. Like that is hands down the biggest tabletop scenario that is run in Korea, right? It runs, Callie, keep me honest, you probably know better than I do, at least twice a year there are two major exercises that simulate, North Korean attacking South Korea. To help facilitate that, there is a team called OPFOR. As a matter of fact, oh, cool, you can kind of see it, right? This little flag, whoops, right here, OPFOR, right? This is opposition forces. This is from my days in Korea. It stands for opposition forces. It's an invite-only team. You have to try out for it. There's only one team that does the entire Korean peninsula, and they run out of Camp Humphreys. And it's run by the combat communications unit that I was attached to down there at Camp Humphreys. And our goal as OPFOR, as you can tell, opposition forces, it was to red team military bases and military exercises. So this is early days of physical pen testing, right? This is like, doing it military style. And so we would go to these exercises. We would go to these military exercises that were happening on the peninsula, and our goal was to pretend to be North Korean soldiers and infiltrators and spies to try to break into U.S. Air Force installations. And so we studied, the TTPs of the North Korean military. We studied TTPs of North Korean espionage campaigns, all those types of things like that. And we would go to various places and basically try to break into them. I'll give you an example. During one of the peninsula-wide, exercises, they loaded us up into a van. There were about 4 of us. We were representing a special strike unit. That our mission in this particular case during this exercise was, if you've never been to Korea, I'm going to try to paint this picture for you. When you drive in the front gate, or at least the front gate that was the front gate when I was there, right? And you look off to the right-hand side where the airfield is, you'll see this line of Patriot batteries, right? Pointed to the north, right? For obvious reasons, to run intercept on any missiles that would come from North Korea. And so our mission objective was they were going to drive us out 10 or 15 miles from the airbase, and we had to covertly, at night, traverse through the entire city leading up to Osan Air Base, breach the fence line at Osan Air Base, and plant a simulated bomb on a Patriot missile battery during the exercise. And so that's what the 4 of us did. Was they drove us out. We stealthily hiked 10 plus miles to get to the fence line of Osan Air Base, and like the last like mile, Callie was in a benjo ditch, which if you're in a ditch in the U.S., it is like an open sewer is what a benjo ditch basically is in Korea. It's like a sewer ditch is basically what it boils down to. Anyway, we hiked through we hiked through a benjo ditch the last mile, crawled up to the fence line, scoured the fence line until we found where a dog had basically dug underneath the fence, and in the Air Force's awesome wisdom, the maintenance crew just decided to basically stick like a piece of plywood over the hole that the dog had built underneath the fence line. And so we pulled that piece of plywood out, broke it in half to basically create 2 makeshift shovels, and we dug a hole underneath the fence that we ultimately crawled through to use to attack this this Patriot missile battery. And so like that was physical pen testing. That was what we did for physical pen testing in those days, and it was a wicked lot of fun. So to kind of answer your question, Gonzo, the worst experience I actually ever had pen testing, and the reason I don't ever worry about getting arrested or really honestly any type of any type of negative activity when I do for pen testing is because we were doing a different exercise where, we were simulating a protest on a military base. So there was a comms camp that was set up next to an airfield, and they had they had fence line all around it. And so we had recruited about 75 airmen to kind of come and help us with that. But there were only like a handful, about 12 of us who were OPFOR that were supposed to be in the front just in case the opportunity presented itself. And so imagine 75 people cranking on this chain link fence, right? Protesting the military being in Korea. We're banging, everything else like that. And I'm in the front, like, if you think like a chain link fence with like the little U-shaped bracket that goes over the pole, right? I don't know who didn't secure it, but everybody's shaking this fence. And all of a sudden I see this U-shaped bracket pop up and down, and the fence cracks open just a little bit. I'm 24, something like that at the time, 25, something like that at the time. I don't know. And an instinct in me, that bad guy instinct in me, saw that fence line crack open, and boy, I took off. I pushed that fence line open, and I just took off sprinting. And I want to tell you unequivocally, I have about 15 seconds of memory of sprinting, of hauling ass towards the comm tent before I hear this ATV, woo, and I feel this knee in the back of my shoulder blade. Next thing I know, I am face down on the pavement with a live M16 pointed right at the back of my head, face down on the pavement. It was painful. It was a little bit scary because you're not supposed to have live rounds, and so whoever hit me with live rounds thought I was actually really a threat instead of the simulated threat. And so like I've been face down on the pavement with an M16 with live rounds in the back of my head, pretty dazed and confused at the time. It was pretty gnarly. Had a lot of fun doing that stuff. I definitely, it made it really easy to do physical pen testing on the outside when I got out in 2013. And for seven-ish or so years, I was doing pen testing on the outside, and I never came into, nearly as afraid as I was that day breaking through that fence line.